Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Hey, Bruce.
Oh, Lionel?
Today is February the 28th.
Wow.
You've now had.
You know what that means?
It means you've had your new truck, your new wheels for 2 weeks now.
That, but it's also the last day of February for this year.
It is. How do they determine how many? What is it? Every third year?
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years there's a leap year.
Yeah. So 2020 was the last one, and then 2024 will be the next one.
That always screws me.
It also coincidental with the presidential elections in the U.S. every 4 years.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
I did not know that.
Well, there you go.
And it always screws up my 1 more year thing, because then I got to figure out.
Because you got to add the extra day in there.
And I got to add the extra day to get the number on the shirt. The thing I dislike about my 1 more year fund to raise money for the psychosocial oncology department at Princess Margaret Hospital at 640 University Avenue, right there in downtown Toronto, Ontario. The one thing I hate is trying to get that number for the T-shirt right every year. Yes. I sweat bullets over that. And it's really simple math, but I sweat bullets over that. Because it's such a high number. When I started out, I didn't think I'd ever have to do such a thing.
You weren't worried about leap years at that point in time.
I wasn't worried about leap years. I was just worried about a year.
Yes.
At that point. So anyways, it's been a couple of weeks now. How do you enjoy your new truck?
Oh, it's beautiful. And so far, the lovely Jean has not taken it in a parking garage in downtown Toronto, so there's no racing stripe on it. So it's good. It's a beautiful. It's a wonderful machine. It rides nicely. It still has the newer truck smell to it, and it's a lot of fun.
And how did she jammed it in an indoor parking lot somehow?
Yeah, she did. It's a long story. That this goes back to a couple of years, 3, 4 years ago, maybe. But anyway, I was supposed to go to Springfield with you then, and then I blew up my hamstring. So I ended up. Friends of ours had given us tickets to go to Toronto to see a show. Come away from here, what are about the 9/11 flights landing in Newfoundland. And because of my leg, I couldn't go. So Jean got a hold of her friend to go, and her friend's got points. I don't know. She booked a hotel room downtown Toronto for the two of them to, stay the Friday night, and I think the Saturday night as well. And Jean was going to drive down because her friend doesn't drive. So my last words were, park at the Wilson subway station and take the subway down because you don't need the truck downtown. So the weekend comes and goes, and the Wednesday after, I'm sitting at my desk in my office. I'm looking out of my truck going, what the hell's wrong with the side of my truck? I look a little closer, and I see this yellow stripe down the side and then sort of a crinkle. And I go, oh. So indeed, when I got home, the lovely Jean admitted she tried taking it to the parking garage underground at the hotel and had it stuck, and it took 3 guys 40 minutes to get the thing out.
It kind of sounds like an I Love Lucy episode.
I'll tell you, my last words literally says, park at Wilson, take the subway.
Well,
so there you go.
Could you not have parked at any subway station? But are you insistent that it has to be a subway station that correlates with your last name?
Well, if you're going to park at a subway, you might as well park at one named after you, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
She could have gone to York. Well, York, Wilson's easy to get into. Then you don't need to worry about anything. So.
All right, today we're going to listen to, I think this is an all-star variety hour. And
okay.
I thought last week's Patreon episode was going to be an all-star variety hour, but it turned out to be Adventures with the Average Don.
Adventures with the Average Don, yes, sir.
But this is an all-star variety hour with just 2 participants. Our very own, the NMRA president, Gordy Robinson.
Yay, Gordy. Doing a great job.
Doing a fabulous job. And one of our favorite hobby shop owners, Lorne James of Otter Valley Railway.
Otter Valley Railway, very good.
But I have a complaint about them.
Uh-oh.
So here's the deal. I was trying to buy a gift certificate for a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
because he just helps out a lot. And
I assume you'd be buying this from James and not Gordy.
Yeah, not for Gordy's
okay.
out of this.
Just to make clear, we're talking about Lorne James right now.
Gordy, just take a seat at the side. You're not involved in this. So I was trying to buy a gift certificate for a buddy of mine who helps out a lot, and I wanted to just say, hey, here's a little thank you. Here's a gift certificate. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy this at Otter Valley. I buy most of my gift certificates at Midwest Model Railroad. But I thought, I'm going to throw a little bit of business Lorne's way and buy this gift certificate at Otter Valley Railway. And so I go on the website, and at first I couldn't find where it says gift certificates. That was a little confusing. As a matter of fact, let me open it up now just so I can... If I'm going to complain, I might as well do it in full.
Might as well do the complain the play-by-play, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I went to, so I'm looking at the website here now. I'm pulling it up. It's coming up. Come on up, website. There it is. Okay. So under new products, so I'm looking for gift certificate. I'm looking for, it says home, on the very, that says home, new products, HO scale, N scale, all products, frequently asked questions, your cart, contact us, and the Hobbyist Lounge.
Indeed.
And then under that, it says, what's new, Decoder's Estate, scratch building announcements, hot items, super saver, HO scale, N scale, Z scale, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm looking for, where does it say gift certificates? Well, maybe under all products? No. It's under home? No. I'm at home. I don't know. Frequently, no. And so then just by coincidence, I click on new products.
Right.
And under that tab, it's new arrivals, announcements, and gift certificates.
There you go.
So already at this point, I'm somewhat...
Flummoxed? In a bit of a fluffle?
Yeah.
Kerfuffle.
I'm flummoxed because it took me a bit to find the gift certificate. And I was pretty excited that I would finally gotten around to doing this job that I'd wanted to do for a month or two. So, okay, great. So I find the gift certificate, and it's pretty easy to follow, but you got to join. I think you have to join, or I think you have to open an account.
I think you have to create an account.
You have to create an account. You can't just be a guest. And I create the account, and I carefully, put the information in where I keep all my passwords, blah, blah, blah. And then I fill out the amount, yada, yada, yada. And I think the problem is because I'm in Florida at the spring training studios.
Ah, yes.
And the computer spends most of its time in Canada. Somehow the cookies or something recognizes that this is a Canadian address or a Canadian IP.
The Ferner.
Yeah.
Ferner down there.
Yeah. So I get to where you pay.
Uh-huh.
And there's the PayPal window. But I don't want PayPal, but there's no way to click for credit card.
Huh.
So I'm thinking, so I click on PayPal, and then you go to your PayPal account, but the credit card I wanted to use wasn't listed on that PayPal account. So then I'm thinking, now I got to add a credit card to my PayPal account, yada, yada, yada. You know what? I'm just going to stop. Took me a while to find where it said gift certificates. Then I had to join and create an account. Now I'm in PayPal, and I got to add you know what, Lorne? This is just starting to be way too much work, buddy. It would be easier for me to drive the 180 miles. So then the next thing I'm going to be doing is, and it says items, and then the problem was, then yesterday I get a phone call, and it's the very nice girl from the store. They're all great people there. It's a great store.
They're super people. It is a
Lauren's
great store.
The staff are great. They're all wonderful people. It's just that they've obviously built this website with the sole idea of irritating the living crap out of me.
I'm sure that was high on their list of priorities. Now we're going to build a website for the store. What should it be? Well, let's annoy the hell out of that Strang guy.
Yeah, whatever we do, let's build it so it somehow when he goes to order a gift certificate when he's in his Florida home, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, but it's funny. I had an issue with PayPal the other because I was trying to purchase something through PBS in the States, and when I went to click on, can't use PayPal for anything outside the U.S. So I'm thinking, really? I've used PayPal around the world and no issues, but PBS in the States I can't use PayPal for?
Yeah, exactly. It depends on. Yeah. Well, Depends on how the software's set up, I guess. Well, in
Yeah, I guess.
this one, it sent me to PayPal, and I'm like, I don't want to use PayPal. Why can't I just give you my credit card and spend money?
Yes.
Which is great. So, all right. So that was that. So then I'm doing stuff yesterday, and I get a call from one of the lovely ladies at the store.
Right.
And she says, I just wanted to follow up with you about your order for Bruce Wilson. And I said, I didn't order anything for Bruce Wilson. And then she says, I just wanted to follow up with you for that order for that gift certificate that you'd purchased. And I go, well, I hadn't purchased a gift certificate. Well, we have it here that you didn't actually purchase it. You didn't fill out the amount, but it's, you got to the point, but you never actually paid for it. And I said, well, I tried to pay for it with my credit card, but I couldn't pay for it with my credit card. And she says, well, I'll send you an email declining the order. I said, do you have to? Can't you just not?
Can't you just click on a button and your system say, get rid of this?
Yeah. So the next time we talk to Lorne, I'm giving him fair warning. This is what we're going to be talking about.
Okay, good. And in retrospect, a road trip would be great because then he could take you out to Harvey's for a burger.
Yeah.
Seeing as it gave us less than clear directions on where that was.
Yeah, that's right. Now we got to add that to the less than clear directions about finding Harvey's. Oh, I think if there's a road trip to Otter Valley involved, you'll be on that. You'll be along.
Yeah, we'll have great, but no fizzy water.
Yeah, no fizzy water. All right.
Yes.
So anyways, this particular All-Star Variety Hour is us having a great conversation with Lorne. And also then we follow that up with an even better conversation with Gordy Robinson about just how great he's doing with the NMRA and how much he wants to make people want to join the NMRA.
Oh, exactly. And I think the last I talked to him would be probably a week or so ago by the time this airs. And since the time he had taken and his team had taken office back in last summer, I believe the NMRA is up by 500 or 600 members.
Really?
Something like that.
Wow, I can believe it. He is doing a great job. All right,
he is taking it and brought it out of the weeds.
All right, let's get out of here. Get us out of here, and then we'll have a little.
Get
discussion.
Us out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, subway chimes, go.
Bruce.
Lionel.
Bruce. Oh,
Lionel.
I know. I was going to ask.
What? What?
I was going to ask you. This is I'm sure this is a segment on a what do you call those things? All-Star Variety.
All-Star Variety Hour.
Yeah. And it may be on the Patreon channel. It may be on the free channel. I have no idea about that, but I do.
So there may be goal horns or there may not be goal horns, depending where it is.
I feel very confident that this is on an All-Star Variety Hour.
Right.
And I was hoping you could tell me, is this the first segment since the last segment?
It is as far as the goes, but depending on when it shows, it may be after another previous segment or before another one. It's all very confusing because we record them, then you put them out when you want.
Yeah, that's right. These are
like they go into like the big drum, the big drum of bingo balls, and you pull them out. Oh, look at this segment. Yeah.
That's right. When
and no offense, folks, if you're around AML headquarters and busted knuckle, come on down when we're pulling out which segments for the All-Star Variety Hour. It's a blast. We have a whole good time doing it.
And we have a stainless steel room where we do it, and a stainless steel drum. And what we do is each time we finish one of the segments, we take the reel off the recorder, tape the last bit of the reel, the tape recording reel, and throw it into the bin.
Yep.
Lorne James. Lorne?
Yes, Lionel.
So you're the person we're going to talk to in this segment.
That's fantastic.
It is fantastic. And
did you have any idea how we picked those segments, Lorne?
Yeah,
it's not just random messages from Lionel. You want to be on a podcast tonight? Sure.
No.
You contacted me.
I know, Lionel. I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah, but you're not. I don't think he can. I don't think he. He's like a dog. He's like a fun dog. He's like squirrel.
Where?
Yeah.
So the last time we talked to you, we were talking about, we did a little Christmas ditty for Christmas Day. You're very privileged to have that. I think, Lorne, You were the first person ever in the 7-year history of the AML network. I think you were the first person ever to be on Christmas Day.
We'll have to call it the extension of the Griswolds.
Yeah, there you go. And anyways, we did a special.
They know what that's done, Lionel. That's made that episode a collector's item.
A collector's item, yeah. I can pick that up with the elevator music.
Indeed. We can bundle them together.
Bundle them together with the elevator music CDs.
Yes.
So,
unfortunately, we still have a bunch of those.
Yeah, that didn't go as well as we were hoping.
Yeah, we thought it'd be better, but not so much.
So anyways, we did a segment because on Christmas Day, you announced that Otter Valley Railroad was releasing to the world some Rapido M420s that were for the Ontario Southland Railway that were originally British Columbia locomotives, I believe.
Correct.
So and then you told us during that it was, so tell us roughly, they're long gone now. And I want to know, at another time, I want to know how many you sold to places other than Canada. That shouldn't be a problem. I kind of keep a track of where the international flavor is going, especially on custom products. I know it's a big feature to see how well the product's moving and how the uniqueness is traveling. So I've been tracking that more and more. Have you?
Yep.
I bet you that's pretty interesting.
What I always finds it interesting is when my girls are packing stuff in the back, they're either are shipping it to a new customer in a new country or a new part of the world or something different. So we're always adding new international customers daily, and it's always it's showing the uniqueness and the creativity of my staff and myself and our brand, how we're reaching new people, whether it's through the Mother's Life podcast, whether it's our newsletter, our Facebook, word of mouth, in the forums, our reviews. So, I'm trying to grow the Otter Valley brand internationally now.
And I think that's because I was yelling at you, isn't it?
It's absolutely because of the angry podcaster.
That's right. It's because of the angry podcaster. And now it's exciting that you're doing this. I think it's very, very cool. I like that. I like seeing you grow, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So anyways, Rapido released this locomotive M420. How long ago did they release that locomotive, or has it actually? So this
is the first run of the rebuilt, but they did the original unrebuilt M420s. They were released in February of 21. They showed their first production sample in January 2020 at the Amherst show. So the first runs, they sold really well. We sold about 480 pieces of just the CN, just exceptionally well. I mean, I sold undecorated. They only did 10 CN numbers. We had such high demand, and we still have people asking to this day. So in November of 21, I had a work business lunch or luncheon or webinar with Jason Sharon Rapido.
Well, what was it? Was it a webinar? Was it lunch? What was it? Was he in the same room with you?
No, it was a Zoom over lunch. So there's the correct term.
Is this a bit, Bruce?
It seems like it.
Yeah, that's not. So who was eating?
I was eating. I was eating while Jason and I were talking.
Okay, so Jason wasn't eating, just you.
Well, Jason was in his train room when we were talking. He was in the train room, and I was downstairs having lunch. So.
Okay, what were you having?
I was just having some leftover chicken parm.
Okay.
All right.
So it was a working lunch for you, and for him, it was just a meeting.
Yep.
Okay. So
could he see you were eating?
Yeah. Could he see you were eating?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll have to check with Jason on that.
We'll have to check with Jason, find out why he wasn't invited to lunch or something like that.
I just had a great idea, Bruce. Go for it. This is an idea that wouldn't maybe not necessarily be classed under great. I would say this is a unique idea.
Okay.
That may be classed as self-torture. What about if we did a podcast with Jason Schron and Lorne James?
Over lunch?
Well, I think, no.
We could all be tucking into submarine sandwiches or something like that?
I don't think we should be eating. I'd be joking a lot. But would that be self-torture? Would that be
I would think that would be most interesting.
That would be great. It would be very interesting, but I doubt if I would be able to keep up. We might have
you
to.
would.
We might have to bring in an expert.
Have a couple Advil before you start.
Yeah, a couple of bottles of Advil before I start.
Yeah. Well,
all right. So, anyways, you and Jason were talking.
Yeah, so Jason and I had been discussing a couple models. So we had set up a Zoom time together for about an hour and a half. Over that period, we talked about 6 to 7 different models that we could work together as either a one-off or a split run or production slot. So we went through a gambit of locomotives, freight cars, passenger cars. We went through some different options, talked about some of the trends he saw in the industry, some of the trends I saw, some behind the scenes questions that him and I had for each other, kind of on where we kind of saw the next 6 to 18 months go, some of the current struggles and issues in the marketplace. And then we start talking about, possibilities of runs, production numbers. With me being a bean counter, I got into the nuts and bolts, cash up front, net terms, dollars to try to make sense out of possibly taking, multiple skids of product. So after the end of it, Jason says, we're going to announce this on Christmas Day. And I'm like, I want the 3 Ontario Southland numbers. He goes, are you sure? I said, I want the 3 numbers.
So
consider this a purchase order. I want the 3 numbers.
Okay.
And then I want the next model of the next model of the next model, and keep coming when you have these requests.
So he talked about this M420 that you guys released on Christmas Day, and in there, how did you decide? Because it sounds like it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. How did you decide how many to buy right then while you're talking to Jason?
Well, I quizzed him on the spot on what the production minimums were, because there's certain setups with the pad printing and the artwork. So once we established the baseline number, then I went on how many road numbers, and then we started talking about the net price of the units, and went from there.
So you based your order on what his minimum was?
Well, that's the floor. I had to take the floor. So
what is the floor? Hang on. Do you know what he's talking about, Bruce?
Yeah, it's minimum order.
Oh, is that the floor?
Yes.
How do you know
he
that?
says I can do them for you if you buy so many. Lorne said, okay.
How do you
That's
know?
Correct.
How do you know that, Bruce?
I've been around the industries sorts for a while and know what certain production runs are and that type of thing.
So you've been around the block?
A couple times, not recently though. But.
Okay. So the floor is another term for minimum order.
Yeah. So like with any manufacturer, they have a certain production minimum they have to hit, or the model will not be produced.
Right.
And that's usually set up by either the artwork or the pad printing or other, restrictions or specifications from the builder overseas. So once we had established what the floor was, and I was comfortable with that number, I was willing then to take the model on, as an Otter Valley only model.
So is this why it's less like an ongoing conversation over 15 or 20 minutes trying to establish what the floor is, or did he know?
I knew what the floor was to begin with. I had a pretty good idea what the floor was. I just wanted to make sure it didn't drastically change on me.
And did you know what the minimum order was as well?
It's 300. Generally, with most of these, Lionel and Bruce, it's usually 300.
Okay.
Some manufacturers can be a little bit lesser. Some can actually be more, and that's where it gets a bit dangerous. That's past my comfort.
All right. So the minimum order on the locomotive is 300, but how many? So you have 3 locomotive numbers. So is there a minimum for how many a locomotive number has to be? So
everything has to be ordered in 6s, Lionel. That's just kind of how the breakdown of the boxes and the material handling is. So I could, in theory, order, let's say, 66 and 36 of each model, like 66 sound, 36 non-sound. As long as I hit, the total 300 and everything is divisible by 6, then we're good.
Sure, because when we talked to Jason about something, he said there's 6 in a box. So if you want it undecorated, you're willing to take 6 or something like that. But does that mean, Bruce, how many times does 6 go into 300?
50.
50.
Does that mean if you wanted 50 different numbers, you could have 50 different numbers?
No. Usually the cap at a rate around 6. With most locomotives, they usually cap it around 3 to 4.
Yeah, but I mean, you just said it's in quantities of 6. So that sounded like it meant that each box of 6 could be a different number from the last box of 6.
No, what it means is, so for instance, when we brought in the buses, I had to take quantities of like 30 or 36 of either sound or lit or non-lit. So in this situation with the sound and non-sound, if I want to take, say, road number 644, I've got to take 66, and then I've got to take 36 non-sound to get to my 100, to get to my 300 on my floor.
Okay, but
as long as I take each quantity divisible by 6, so that way they can material handle the case boxes. That's all that matters.
I understand that, but then what's the minimum order for a road number?
Usually it's like 90 to 96, so it's right around 100.
All right, so it's the 6 is in there to decide how many sound, how many non-sound, but in actual reality, you can't take an individual road number. You got to take roughly a minimum of 100 per order.
I could take 96 of one number and then overload.
I said approximately around 100.
Yeah. Yes.
He is an accountant.
I know, and he's also put on this planet too.
I don't want you to make any transposition errors now, Lionel.
Yes.
Any what errors?
Transposition errors.
Oh, transposition errors. Yeah, no, yes. I don't want to do that. So, okay, so roughly within a half a dozen, the minimum order usually, now do you find this with most manufacturers, that the minimum order of a road number is approximately 100?
It can go as low as 50, but most people have between 75 and 100 they want.
Okay, so it can go as low as 50. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, and is that with Rapido as well? It could go as low as 50?
That's not with Rapido.
Okay, so it's with other manufacturers. So each manufacturer has its own minimum order of, okay, I want 75. You got to take 72. I want numbers 1098. Well, you got to take 72 of them. That number may vary from one manufacturer to another.
True. The other thing to consider is, and this is something that I know you're gonna grumble about, if they're making it mass produced and all you're doing is adding a number, they might cut the numbers down to like say 50 or 60 a piece, but it's basically because they're doing all the other production ones in the same setup. And sometimes that happens where, a hobby shop or a museum or a heritage society or historical society, they'll be like, hey, we have this locomotive or freight car, stored here. We'd like to take 50 or 60 and sell it as a fundraiser. And sometimes they can do that because they're producing all the other production at the same time, and all it is just a number change on the pad machine.
So changing the number is not that big of a deal then?
Not really.
Okay. The main big deal is the paint scheme.
Artwork.
The artwork and the paint scheme, and then the number is not that big of a deal. So you finally decided in this working lunch where you were eating and Jason wasn't, did he look hungry as you were did he look at you like, man, that looks good?
He said, you struggling for time today, Lorne? I said, I got another Zoom meeting once I'm done here with you. And he laughed. He goes, yeah, I got another one too.
No, you guys are just too busy. We're much more relaxed here at the old AML studios. And, Bruce and I often go, you want to do a podcast? Well, I don't know. Who is it? Well, Lauren's calling us. Well, do you want to talk? Nah. See if he can come back tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I've got a question. I understand the 6 because it's six in a case, all that stuff, which makes sense. I can't believe people are still wanting to buy these things without sound in them. Like, as far as I know, Rapido goes, they record the whole prototype and throw a custom sound card at them. Why would people want to screw around and put their own sound card in it?
So some of the sales will likely be collectors. Some of the sales will likely be employees or retirees. Okay. And then some of the sales will still be guys that are operating DC. And then there's a handful of guys that they want the locomotive, but they just can't afford to put sound in, Bruce. So they'll get the non-sound, and then they'll drop their favorite 21-pin decoder in, or they'll put a 21-pin non-sound decoder in, and then maybe come back to it later when they have some more financial resources.
And would it also be that if you buy all 3 road numbers of this particular locomotive, 2 of them with sound is fine because 3.
Absolutely. 3 might be overkill if you're running them all together.
Right. Yeah. So that's another possibility too. That sometimes, Bruce, I think I'd say it sounds like a third to a quarter to a third of sales is sometimes legitimately people just don't need that much sound, when they're running them. But I see the thing I can't get over, Bruce, is they're still selling DC ones.
Well, there you go.
But I guess there's still people that, that's not a slam against anybody running DC. No. I understand that too. If your layout's been built that way and you just don't have the desire to change to DCC, I fully understand that too. So,
one interesting trend just to share with you, Lionel and Bruce, is sometimes a model I'll sell more DC than DCC if it's going to a certain area in the world, or especially if it's being sold in Canada, because some guys prefer to use, say, ESU over soundtracks or vice versa. So depending the model, there could be a lot of DC sales, and then the guys buying the chips to upgrade it because they want to have, customizable sound, or they don't like one company over another. And there's some of that big swings on some models.
Okay.
And is there some places where you find that DC is more prevalent than DCC is actual locations, geographic locations?
In Canada, if the model is only available in soundtracks, the sound will be 50-50 split sometimes.
Oh, really? Eh?
There's a very big ESU following in Canada. A very big ESU following.
I know I was going to ask you. I'm going to ask you now so I don't forget. What about that you were working? Who are you working with where you guys are developing your own freight car?
That was my friend Andrew Duns from Andrew Duns Design. When you and Bruce came down for the pop-up event, Andrew was showing off the two 3D samples he did. Excuse me. And we're still in the design phase of it. We want to bring it out, but we're a little bit leery if we don't have a close enough sample, and then ideally take it to Springfield as a trial and get our feet wet kind of approach.
So does Andrew Dunn Design have any kind of recognition on the internet?
So Andrews does R&D and CAD design in government institutions. So he's well reversed in it. This is about the third or fourth 3D design model he's done. But I mean, it's mostly been freelance so far.
He is a model railroader. He just doesn't have any online presence as far as model railroading goes.
He's got his Facebook and a YouTube channel of his own layout, but nothing of business acumen. Him and I have been mostly doing it as a partnership because him and I have been friends for a long time.
Okay. And is he your friend?
Oh, he's a very close friend.
No, but do you have any others?
I have you, Lionel.
Exactly. Boom. You got it right on the first answer. All right, so you and Jason are having this working lunch, and then you decide. So how do you feel? Like, I want to know how you, as a very stable model railroad businessman, you got a very good shop. You got a really nice shop. It's a very stable shop. It's a very solid little enterprise. How do you decide that you want 300 of these locomotives instead of 600 of these locomotives?
I have a pretty good sense of a feel based on previous models I've sold. And this is the third OSR model that I've come out with. So I have a pretty good idea what the upper reach of the market and the lower reach. And I know I'm going to have to work hard to sell the 300, but I know with the Rapido name and the uniqueness of this model and how it's got that BC rail feel, but it's got that short line, kind of that, grimy feel to it. I really feel I'm going to be able to hit the sales, and it might surprise me that I might do substantially over the 300 minimum. I'm really excited to see how it's reacted on Saturday, and I think the opportunities that it's going to bring to new customers to the Otter Valley page and to business is huge. So it's another one of these springboards that I talk about where I can bring them into my tent and show them a suite of products in addition to this.
So this is, are you doing pre-orders? Like 300 isn't like if you get more than that, you're going to be able to get, like, is this pre-orders that we're talking about?
So 300 will be the minimum I have to pre-order with Rapido. But if I go past it, then I'll take additional orders, and I'll also take some slack for both arrival. And then generally I'll call a spec slack that I won't make available till the model physically arrives.
Bruce, that sounded like a yes or no question to me.
Yeah, it did, but the answer wasn't.
No. So when you announced this on Christmas Day, which is come and gone, you took pre-orders, and how long did you take pre-orders for?
So they'll start pre-orders on the 25th, and they'll be taken all the way up until the last day when they have their cutoff. And then I'll also take pre-orders right up until all my allocation is procured or pre-ordered. So I'll have additional allocation after the date as well.
Okay, so what do you know when their final date is for the pre-orders? What was it?
I would think if they're going to announce it on Christmas Day, they probably will have the pre-order cutoff date probably June or July, and then it'll go in production probably in September, October, and it should arrive the following September, October.
So that's pretty standard. Do you know? You probably know this, Bruce. I probably can get a yes or no answer out of you. Is that pretty standard? 5-6 months like that?
Yeah, it is, because they and then depending on I've seen here goes your yes or no answer. I've seen Jason extend pre-order dates because they're close, and he thinks that with another month or so that he'll get enough orders to do it, and then just in case somebody's on the well, do I not, and they'll extend it just so that it gives people a chance to commit, and then others that. If they haven't even come close to the pre-order date, they're sort of go on the back burner into the file cabinet again, like the CNR 460 locomotive. It's it didn't make its pre-order list, whereas the CPR 460 did, so it's going to production. The CNR is sitting there waiting for enough interest in it, and if enough people finally want it, and it hits the number, then we'll do that. But it's pre-orders are more or less a fast date, but Jason, I have seen him change things a bit.
Okay, so I want you to listen to this question carefully, Lorne. Okay, all right. So pre-orders are, let's say for argument's sake, they run till the end of June, and you get pre-orders for 270. How many more? Beyond the 300 would you, or no, let's say you get pre-orders for 320. So you've got your 300 plus another 20 more. How many more on top of that do you think that now you would order, now that you know that your 300 are gone, and plus another 20? How many more do you think you would order to keep as extra stock?
Minimum 5%, maximum 20% of my total pre-order.
Okay, so 5% of 300 would be like 15, and maybe you might go as high as 10 or 15%. So you might order an extra roughly 30, 40 units to have for people that didn't hear about it and want it later and stuff like that.
The hope is if I get one of the early samples, like hey, they're painting mine in the factory, and I get an early pre-production sample picture, that'll pop another 30, 40, 50 pre-orders just by having that pre-production picture.
Right.
It always does.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. But you just sound like you got a bit of a tickle there.
I do.
All right. Are you going to be okay, big guy?
I'll be fine.
All right. You having like some tea with lemon in it or something?
Yeah, I'm having lemon water.
Lemon water? Warm or just room temperature?
Room.
Okay. What do you think about that, Bruce?
That would do.
Okay. Are we keeping you up?
Not at all.
Is this like a working? Let's pretend this is a working lunch. Let's pretend this is an interview lunch. I like that idea. I have a cup of tea here. Okay, so now I want to ask you a question, and don't say anything you don't want to say. I want to ask you a question, but I don't want you to say anything that you don't feel comfortable saying, because I've never been interested in that. It'll take the fun out of the podcast if people start feeling uncomfortable with their answers and blah, 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 blah. I'm interested in the Aurora Miniatures locomotive and their whole thing, that everything seems to be taking so long. And doesn't that kill the enthusiasm for a product when you can't, like you just said, if you get a pre-order, a sample that you can put a photo of, that helps push things along. It seems to me like the fellow, young Ben there, it's Ben, right? Isn't his name?
It's Ben.
It seems like a really nice kid, and I think it's a tough business to kind of learn on the fly. But doesn't that somehow kind of kill the enthusiasm when things seem to kind of get stretched out and stretched out and stretched out? How do you deal with that as a vendor? How do you deal with that when you're trying to sell a product?
So That's a good question, Lionel. I'll talk with the Aurora side, and then I'll talk about the general side. I have a lot of faith and energy in Ben. Ben had just come down to our building in December on the 4th and did a pop-up event with the SD60F. It was hit and miss. Some of the reviews, some of the questions. There was people questioning about some conditions, some works. The model needed some reviews, some revisions. So, it wasn't different, but Ben and I had a very good conversation right after. We had a very good working conversation, a very, critical thinking conversation about, revisions that need to be done, packaging, weight, size, thought on how much you want to produce. We talked about logistics of using Vancouver or Long Beach. We talked about different insights. We talked about MacGyvering product through Buffalo. Very good. And then the next day, Ben sends me a surprise, and I'll have another surprise before end of the year from Ben, and I'll just leave it at that. So I'm very excited with Ben. He's a young guy. He's very ambitious, but I think he's got a few aces up his sleeve, and I think people will be surprised.
Okay, so you're very positive on it then.
Very.
Do you find the sales are lagging? Because it seems to me, because the other thing that kind of
wait and see approach, Lionel. I think it's going to be very much a wait and see approach.
Okay. Yeah, I think Bruce will tell you wait and see doesn't really fit into my general personality. Would that be a fair statement, Bruce?
I would say yes. You want to see it now?
I want it now. Yeah, I'm done.
But there has been video out. He's had the video of the thing running, right?
Yeah,
that is the one sample, but it needs about 4 or 5 revisions and a couple other retooling things cleaned up. So we went through that list. Andrew, that we were just talking about, he was there with me, and we went through all the lists with Ben, areas for improvement. We went up and down it. So it was very good feedback back and forth on some corrective criticism and revisions and reviews, as well as open dialect on, how he's seeing other dealers respond to it, consumers, trends, baseline approach. So, we were very open and had good business dialect back and forth.
Yeah, and to be fair, Rapido has similar things. They'll come with a pre-production sample and throw the pictures out there, and I would say, well, it never looked like that, you clowns. How did you do that? And they'll look at that and make changes as necessary. So it's all part of the process.
And I know it's different with freight cars than it is with locomotives. I know it's a more complicated process, but I'm always fascinated lately with our buddy David Leelbach down there at Tangent Models. He doesn't announce a product till he has it basically in his hot little hand.
Yeah,
which I think is really cool. I think it's a really cool way to go. But I understand it's different with the locomotives. And the other thing that threw me off with Aurora Miniatures was they brought in some containers, but the only place you could buy them was Lombard Hobbies.
And I'll tell you why. So that shipment was drop shipped from China straight to Chicago through Long Beach. It got through Long Beach in 1.5 days.
Right.
That's how.
That's how.
Whereas Ben's stuff has been sitting and rotting in the Vancouver port. Big difference on logistics.
But
he learned a lesson. He's not going to ever do that ever again. He's going to probably take the stuff either through Long Beach or Tacoma, and then probably figure out a way to get to Buffalo and then get it out of a container or an LTL load.
All right, slow down there, sport. So so the stuff that came through Long Beach was only destined for Lombard Hobbies?
Yeah, drop ship.
Drop ship means?
It goes straight from the builder right to the retailer. It doesn't hit the wholesaler or the manufacturer in between.
Okay, and there was nobody else in the whole lower 48 that wanted to sell this product?
That's who took the original order in the States.
Oh, okay. And it just seems odd to me that there's only one place that you can buy this particular product.
I brought the concern up to Ben, and he realized it, and he agreed that was a bad point. But we also talked about the freight rates and freight issues both at Vancouver and Long Beach, and how he realized Vancouver might not be the option of port for him, especially if he wants to grow in the States. He might have to figure out some MacGyver way on this side, on the Buffalo side or whatever, to handle it logistically, break it down, ship it out, and then, import the remaining amount to the Canadian market, because he realized how different the freight rates and the logistics nightmare was on the Canadian side.
I think it'd be, Bruce, can you make a note on the whiteboard?
Sure.
I don't think we should interview Ben for just a little while because I think I'd be asking him a lot of really tough questions.
Yes. And I think, this is Ben's initial offerings, and he's learning.
Exactly. He's learning.
And good for him. He's realized that, things may have to be different for him to be successful.
Well, and it's a whole different angle, right? I mean, it's an actual company. It's an actual Chinese manufacturer that had been selling HO scale product in China exclusively.
Yeah.
And then decided they were going to try to attack the North American market, and Ben became their go-to guy.
Yep.
So I just find the whole thing. I actually kind of was having an argument with Uncle Dave Abelies about, he got all excited because they were talking on the Facebook page, on the Aurora Miniatures Facebook page about a -6
C30-7.
The C30-7. And he was getting all excited that this was coming out. And I'm like, they can't even deliver the other one yet. Try to calm yourself down. And I said, they can't. The only place you can buy the containers is in Lombard Hobby. So I said, you need to kind of throttle back there, buddy, or else you're going to be disappointed. So I just thought that was the take that was what I took on it. I'm not saying that I'm right. That's just the take that I had about it, because it seems like, holy moly, we're getting all these great announcements, but eventually you got to kind of produce some product or people are going to lose their enthusiasm. I mean, if you kept announcing you were going to release this and that and the next thing, and then never wasn't coming out, I think you'd notice people's enthusiasm would start to dwindle.
You'd be called vaporware.
Vaporware. There you go. Boom. Which is really, and how long did it take you to learn? I must have taken you quite some time. When did the actual store open in Tillsonburg? I know you were at your parents' place or at the farm there for a while. The location you're at now, how long have you been actually in Tillsonburg?
So we've been there since December of 2019.
So
2 years.
2 years, just over 2 years at the time of this airing. So was it in those 2 years that you've become more and more where you're buying special runs and stuff like that? Had you done much of that before you moved into the store in Tillsonburg?
We had done 7 special runs before we had moved to Tillsonburg. What I had learned after we had relocated to Tillsonburg, very quickly in May of 2020, I learned how I needed to be assertive with capital, with inventory, and the ability of purchasing power. And I started aggressively trying to flex those muscles, and I started to really, drastically grow.
And was there something that spurred you on to realize that?
I started looking at some logistics options, just some synergies with some suppliers, and then I started thinking about, what, if I had a special run come every 3 to 4 months, I'm fresh, I'm unique, I can get out there, I can grow more customers, I can ship more, I can have more walk-in, I can get events like the pop-up event where we had almost 200 people in the middle of September, in Ontario with a restricted border, and different stuff like that. And I'm challenging and pushing myself on a daily basis to find out new innovative ways to keep innovating and improving the service for my customers, or upping the level of product I carry, or improving the relationship with the manufacturers and getting that that one-to-one relationship that I've in a matter of 6 months I have added another half a dozen suppliers that I have a one-to-one relationship. And I've had about 4 working Zoom things with different manufacturers where they've asked for my feedback in the Canadian market, for my expertise, to give them insights at how they want to bring their product or flavor their changes, or make tweaks to their brands to enhance their sales in the Canadian market.
Bruce, I don't know if I should tell him this.
Well, go ahead.
No,
you've never held back before.
I'll run it by you first, and then you tell me if I should go ahead and tell him.
All right.
I'm really starting to enjoy our relationship with Lorne, and I really am starting to enjoy the story of watching him do all this stuff and talking to him about it. Does that
right?
I'm not sure that that's necessarily the best way for me to go.
Oh, well, there's no reason why you can't.
Okay.
It's there are certain interviews that are great ones we all enjoy, and then there are others that we go, yeah, well, okay.
So,
And I think this is one of the ones we enjoy.
okay, we enjoy it. So, Lorne, I want you to see if I can ask you this question. See if this question makes any sense to you. It seems like I understand that you're a model railroader first. That's how you got started in the retail side of the hobby. And I understand your business, but it seems like you're enjoying it more and more as each day goes by, and you're enjoying the challenge of trying to figure out what the model railroading market is and how to best utilize it. Does that make sense?
It does. There's been times where I've been stressed, or I've had, moments where, why am I doing this? But then I've also had moments where I've come back and it's like, you get that amazing raising review, or that awesome phone call, or, hey, you know what? You made a model that nobody else made. And then, you get reached out to by people in the industry that have got 15, 20, 30 years, 40 years, experience, asking you for feedback. It just, it humbles me so much. And then when I have seasoned railroads companies coming to me for product for retirement gifts or corporate gifts or short lines, or, hey, yeah, I know Lorne. I was in his shop. He's a great guy. And when, my girls, the uplifting spirit, they're always in a good mood. I enjoy running a business, but I enjoy running a business where I love the customers and I love the product day in and day out.
Okay, so let me follow up with this question. And me and Uncle Dave lately have been talking about how important the community of model railroading is. And Bruce, obviously, you can relate to this too. Does it seem to you like being part of the community that is model railroading is becoming more important and more fun than it ever has before?
Absolutely. I have made myself accessible to multiple YouTube guys online that are big about the modeling community. Um, I love seeing the posts on the Facebook groups, whether it's a Modeler's Life or the Canadian Railway Modeler, or even in our group tonight. I even put it on ours tonight. I said, quick podcast with the Modeler's Life. It's round 4, the angry podcaster versus the up and coming fastest growing CEO. What should we ask tonight? And I said, no. Lionel and Bruce and I are good friends, but any questions below, ask them. And I had comments, and it's like, the ability to feel connected. I mean, I'll give you a great example. Like, these people in this hobby is amazing. So one of my sales girls, it was her birthday on Saturday. My girls put a picture up about, Hilda being the elf. We had 260 likes on it, and we had 97 happy birthday comments to Hilda. It made her day. And it showed to me how much friendship, fostering, and fellowship is actually in the modeling community. And I was very humbled.
I think that part of the hobby, I think, is growing at an astronomical rate, more than we could have ever imagined. Like I said, I really, truly believe that the internet was invented for model railroaders. I really do believe that. This is great fun, Lorne. You know what, buddy?
Okay,
Each time... What's
Can
that?
I interrupt for a minute? Seeing as Lorne mentioned he asked for questions on his group page. Can we go for a couple of these questions?
Did you get some questions?
I did.
He did.
All right, let's do it, man.
So the first question is when is Lionel and Bruce going to come to the store? And I answered the question. I said Lionel and Bruce came to the pop-up event, but they will be coming back for a Harvey's Burger very quickly.
Yeah.
2, they asked if Otter Valley would carry any special A Mother's Life Canadian material. And we could talk about that, Lionel.
We can talk about that.
Yeah. And then the other one asked me is Izzy ever going to be on a Mother's Life podcast? And I said, I'll have to ask Uncle Lionel about that.
Who's ever going to be on?
Izzy. My daughter.
Izzy. Izzy.
When you and Bruce came to the pop-up event, you saw the face of, that's going to be the new face of Otter Valley, and how much she loves being there, guys. You saw that.
She'll have fun working there. How old is she now?
She's 4. She loves coming to shop every day.
So what's her full name? Isabel?
Isabel Ann Lee James.
Okay, so and you call her Izzy for short.
Yep.
And you spell that I-double-S-Y?
I-double-Z.
I-double-Z. I like that.
Yeah, I wanted her to learn cursive.
Right. Sure. Well, sure. I had a 97 cursive, nice car, 2-door.
You had the 5-speed?
Oh yeah. I had the 5-speed hatchback.
Nice.
Yeah, V6.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm enjoying talking to you more and more, Lorne. I think we're both figuring this out. I think we're both figuring this out, buddy. You are going to help me spread the word because model railroaders, I find, I think this is in every aspect of life, but for some reason or other, I think the community of model railroading is much tighter, and I think they enjoy it more when they can get a bit of a insight into behind the scenes. Because one of my bugaboos lately is people talk about the price, and that's I'm going to use the word silly. It's a silly argument because hobbies cost money. It's just a hobby. Hobbies cost money. Whether you're a hockey player, whether you are a golfer, whether you're a hunter, hobbies cost money. So people shouldn't, because a locomotive costing $300 really isn't that far out of reach, because there's lots of things in the hobby that you can buy for a lot less. So that people dwell on that. I mean, I think one of the things that one of the particular items that I'm starting to realize is a real good value for money is AccuRail.
Great kits. Great kits to build.
Yeah, aren't they the modern day Athearn Blue Box?
They are a better version of the modern day Blue Box. They've got a little bit sharper tooling. The paint is really crisp. They'll even sell you additional decal sets to renumber if you want to do a fleet. Here's a real blast from the past that I've really picked up, and I want to give a shout out to my very good friend and longtime supplier, Claire Gilbert at Sylvan. I've been back selling resin kits. I've been bringing resin kits back to the modelers.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I brought back the Point St. Charles caboose, which is, I'm on my third production batch with Claire. I brought back the CN transfer caboose. I brought out container boats with Claire. I'm still one of Claire's biggest stocking dealers in the world, and every month I'm doing more and more at Sylvan, which is resin unpainted kits. And we have done a couple workshops, how to, you name it. And I'm looking at it and saying, yeah, there's guys that want the RTR, but there's also guys that willing to sit down and put that kit together or take that something up to a cottage, or that cold winter's day and they want to be in the basement and build something while they watch the Bills lose or something.
Yeah, I think more and more that. Yeah, I got that too. The Bills losing.
You were at that game, Lionel. I got to give that to you. They couldn't even kick a field goal.
The snow started coming in. Holy mackerel! We actually had to turn our car around to face into the wind so that we could get our barbecue going. It kept going out. Holy mackerel! That was some event to be at. I'll tell you. The only good thing, then the snow started, and it's like, we were just glad it wasn't raining. Man, that would have been brutal. It wasn't too bad in the stadium. It wasn't too bad.
So one teaser I have planned. So eventually, I will have a new location for the shop, which I've kind of hinted about for a while. So the new location
you're talking about when we were there.
Yep, I've been eyeing a further expansion, gents. They will have the new building will have a Fremo layout where we'll have Fremo work events every 2 months where you can bring your Fremo and connect.
Nice.
I think Fremo is a great way for people to be in the hobby, and
each one of my staff will have their own Fremo section, and that'll enhance their modeling skills so they can work with customers to come in.
Are you going to force them to do that?
Good for them.
It's part of the work requirement.
You're a taskmaster.
Good. They'll have a lot of fun with that.
They absolutely do. Like two of my staff.
And you talk about Fremo as you talk about Fremo as this is one of these things like N-Track used to be, and it still is. I guess there's still those, but Fremo, it's like Lionel says, it's a good way to get into the hobby. You don't need to shell out a whole pile of stuff. You can provide some rolling stock and a couple locomotives, and you meet up with these other guys and run on layouts that are 1,000 feet long type stuff. It's amazing what those guys are doing. And you're talking about price point of locomotives is expensive. Well, if you build a little shelf layout, say 6 feet by 12 feet or something like that, you maybe need 1 or 2 locos. You don't need a whole fleet of 20 or 30 locos. So if you're looking at your modeling from what can I practically do? Okay, I've got a spare bedroom. A lot of people have a spare bedroom now. The kids are gone or whatever. You can put a layout on there, and you don't need a ton of equipment to make it work. You don't need to have a basement filling monster that's requires 30, 40 locomotives and hundreds and hundreds of freight cars. You can do it all on a reasonably decent budget and still have a blast doing it.
And the thing, go ahead, Lorne.
And Bruce, it could be as simple as getting one of our Ontario Selfline models that we've announced on this podcast and building the Ontario Selfline branch line activity. It could be as simple as that.
There you go.
Yep.
Or the Delaware and Lackawanna, one of my favorites down there
Yeah.
in I think the New Jersey area. And there's
or Buffalo Southern.
There you go. There is a ton of short-line railroads out there which are being...
Now, here's a question for Lorne, being a somewhat Southern Ontario guy. Is there any interest in Essex Terminal?
They've done an Essex Terminal caboose, which was very hard to sell because the minimum at that time was, I think it was right around 200, and it was a very hard caboose to sell. We sold about 20 custom painted Essex Terminal. I very much doubt you could do it. There's not enough modelers in Windsor, and not enough people actually care much about Essex Terminal. Whereas that OSR has just got that flair because of the MLWs and the F units. You know, I mean, I can think of at least 7 different modelers from 7 different countries that have railfanned OSR pre-pandemic. At least I've met, and that's not saying that there's been more. I mean, it's on people's bucket list to get F units that hauling freight in the 2020s.
Exactly.
There's not many places like that in the world.
Do you have any of those CP Angus van undecorateds left?
I will when they arrive.
Oh, they haven't come yet?
No, they will probably be April.
Oh, okay. What's the metal McDonald car shave knuckle coupler? What's that?
It's a KD clone.
Oh, it's a clone?
It's a clone style coupler. It's not a KD. It's not a KD coupler.
Why wouldn't they just put in a KD coupler?
Money.
Yeah?
Money.
And is that what Rapido commonly puts on their cars and locomotives? Is this a clone?
They'll put that, or they will occasionally put a KD in. But that's one of the biggest knocks with them is a lot of guys get upset they don't use KDs. And Jason's come out and saying, well, KD's X amount, and we'd rather focus on this and this. I prefer all my models to be KDs, but you still have companies that put AccuMate couplers, or another one that was really popular. But Bruce, in the 90s, McHenry's was like the big grave, and then all of a sudden McHenry's are like, everyone threw them in the junk bin. We have to go back to the trusted number 5 or the trusted 158 or the Whisker. I mean,
you know what? KD is like Goodyear in NASCAR. It's just accept it and just
tried and true and just go.
Yeah, just go. Save yourself a lot of pain and suffering. I might buy one of those. What year was the CP Angus van? What year was it popular?
Probably 72 to right up until the end they got rid of the cabooses, and there's still a handful of Angus kicking around, either in pushers like shovers service or in the white maintenance away cabooses, which have like the steel graded windows. And I've shot a few of those. This past summer we took a vacation up in just outside of Havelock, and we actually saw the train come into Havelock, which was on my bucket list to do. And there was a white van on the Mo train that day, and it was like
nice.
Izzy's like, "Can we stop?" And my wife's like, "For the love of God, it's too hot, and these 2 idiots want to stop trains." And Izzy's like, "Can we get out? Can we get out?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." I'm running down the street, and my wife's like, "I'm leaving you 2 morons behind here." We're like, "Cool, we're good."
Well, she's a wife.
A keener.
Yeah.
Oh.
No,
Izzy's a keener.
Yeah. Your wife is she's single and only has 2 children.
Yes.
You still got the Mustang.
I have a question on these fans, though. The Angus fans, are they grass fed?
No, I think they only eat at the A&W. They don't eat at the Harveys.
Yeah. And when I go to Harvey's, man, I'm ordering big time. What do you still have your Mustang?
I do.
Attaboy. What year is it?
It's a 2008 GT.
What engine you got in it?
It's a 4.6 liter 305.
Attaboy. Our last question. This is the last question.
5-speed stick.
Attaboy. Yeah.
There you go.
How many? Let's go with miles. I know it's K's, but let's quickly convert it in your head, Mr.
215.
Wow, you get 215,000 on it?
Yeah.
Miles?
Yep.
Wow. Good for you.
Well, it's 345s. Would that be around 215 or would that be around 190?
180. It's about 215. Yeah.
I'm on my second clutch, and I got the throw bearing of death giving me the rattle every so often.
Okay, last question. Uh, um, so I was yelling at you the very first time. I was yelling at you about selling internationally, and I sense from our discussions since then that you've been working more and more on that. So what are some of the so have you been doing that, and what are some of the, how are you overcoming some of the problems of that?
So I just 3 weeks ago I signed a brand new contract with Canada Post that secured me even further competitive rates and premium spot on international routings. So it should mitigate some of the issues. Now, obviously, there is still some countries that will only accept container freight. They will not accept air freight, like Australia. So I can't get around that. But I'm also looking at other options, and some of them are looking like DHL and a few others. So I'm looking at different mitigating strategies and trying to get my product in more international hands. And thanks to the podcast, it's working out as well.
Perfect. And so it's probably something you're enjoying the adventure of trying to figure it out. It sounds like.
Absolutely. Getting to new customers, language barriers, using online translators to work through the language barriers, you name it.
Okay, so what are some of the countries that caught you off guard where you're shipping stuff to?
We did Turkey yesterday. A couple months back, we did Hong Kong. I've done Russia multiple times. I've done Greenland last week.
Wow.
Some of the other more obscure ones, we go to Brazil usually every week. Went to Chile last month, and it's Chile, not Chile, Chile. Chile. We went to Paraguay 2 weeks ago. All over domestic Canada, all over continental U.S. Hawaii was my first time ever going to Hawaii, so thank you to whoever listened for the Mother's Life and went to Hawaii, and a lot of Europe.
Wow, and Russia. I think this. So now, are you getting this sense? I know I beat this to death, but that's the one thing that the podcast has done for me. I just never had the sense that this teeny tiny hobby was way bigger than it is. And is that is it just kind of, to me, everything you say sounds to me like if I was you, I'd be sitting there going, all I ever would do is go, holy smokes.
I think the hobby is growing. My conversations with a lot of the backbone suppliers tell me they're still seeing very strong uptick. But I think what's happening is you're getting an upper tier of retailers, and you're getting a very small lower tier, and there's nothing in between. And I'm finding that upper tier, those retailers are stocked, they're deep, they have very responsive shipping, they have astute customer service, they're e-commerce, train show connected, multiple ways sales platforms connected, and are extremely savvy and have either done their own custom runs or working on it. And those upper echelon dealers, both in Canada and United States, are really separating themselves from the rest of the other dealers that don't want to step up their game.
Right. But there seems to be a lot of people. There seems to be a lot of upper tier retailers. There seems to be almost more and more of those every week almost.
They're separating themselves from the pack. I mean, last week we had a skid of Rapido Dome cars. We turned the skid came in at 11, and we had the entire skid shipped out at 4 o'clock that day.
How many cars on a skid?
190.
And you had them all sold and gone.
Yeah, that day alone we did 145 parcels.
How many people you got doing parcels?
That day we had 7. It was all hands on deck, and I let the phones rot for about an hour or two until we got calmed down.
Oh, see, I can't stand that when nobody answers the phone.
I got to look at the back front of the building over the front. I've always had that feeling that the back door is more important than the front door, especially on a day like that. If I see the phone light up a lot, I'll grab it. But that day was very quiet, and people knew that we were, banging parcels out.
Wow, exciting. Well, that was pretty good, eh, Bruce?
It was.
I think he's starting to annoy me less and less all the time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, he's a fine young man, and
He is indeed.
And I like fine young men. They're fun to talk to and get excited with. I probably
see. I don't drive you crazy anymore either, Lionel. I don't drive you crazy anymore.
Oh yeah, you still do for sure. And I'm wondering what I'm going to buy next time I go. You got one of those great shops that I remember from 30 and 40 years ago, where you're in there and you can't leave without buying something.
Yeah.
You might go in there thinking, I don't need anything except a magazine, and you walk out there and you've spent X number of dollars because you just couldn't leave without buying something.
You're just overwhelmed with all the product and the selection. That's really what it is.
Well, that is true.
Well,
the other thing is, you got tons of locomotives and cars. So if you got a lot of the other stuff that guys need,
always,
that you're walking on. Oh, geez, I need to. Here's the all these cool tools in the corner on the rotating rack. Well, I need one of those. And
and you know what it is?
It's stuff like that. It's like Lionel said, it's an old hobby shop. You go there and you got the bits and pieces besides the all the stuff on the center shelves.
And you know what it is too? It's like people like our buddy Ron Kleiss with his mind mount models. Yes, Ron, that's I'm talking about you. But it's those kinds of guys who are making these fun kits to build, and I think almost the hobby's going to kind of do a bit of a 360, and building is going to be come back to. I don't think building stuff is going to go away.
Never.
Well, I
never
think
will.
Over the last couple of years, people cooped up. It's we've talked to some of these. It's going crazy because here's all these kits I've had on my shelf. I might as well start building them, or I want to get started. And here's a kit that's going to keep me busy for a few weeks. Oh, I like that one. I'll order another one.
Well, it's all right, Lorne. What is the magic of model railroading? Explain that to me.
It's the ability to create those memories that you grew up as a child trackside. That's what it is to me.
Yeah,
perfect.
And it's the ability to create cool stuff like ITLA models. I mean, they have some of the coolest structures.
Him and I were talking about making tobacco kills in laser.
There you go.
Yeah.
They'll sell too. What?
Then you get Bernard Helm to do a little miniature Stompin' Tom.
Wow, that is a great idea. Oh, I did. Him and I are working on a full size, HO scale. Fred.
Nice.
Yeah, Fred the Fighting Sock. And he wanted to know how tall he was, and I said, well, as a matter of fact, I asked him one day because he seemed like he was about a foot shorter than me, and it turns out he's 4'9".
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, some people would suggest that Fred the Sock is like Harvey the Rabbit.
Really?
I've heard people talking like he's an imaginary creature, but we know that's not true.
No, that's not true. All right, that's it. I think we're done. I think that was fun. Do you know what to do next, Lorne?
I'm assuming it's the subway.
Okay, well, assume away. Go for it. Let's see if you get it right.
Subway chimes, go.
Bruce?
Lionel?
Bruce?
Lionel?
This is a segment somewhere in the future.
Yet another segment?
Yet another segment.
Holy cow.
We are now on an all-star variety hour starship, hurtling through the space of model railroading.
Weren't they around the same time as Jefferson's Starship, and then they just kind of fell apart?
Yeah, exactly. That would be we need a model railroading band. I saw something the other day that Martin Jenkins had posted about what was it done to? Anyways, it was done to a song about a wife and some guy dragging his wife.
Stuck in the middle of you at the train show.
Stuck in the middle with you at a train show.
Yeah. Layouts to the left of me, dealers to the right, stuck at a train show with you. Yeah.
Who did Stuck in the Middle with you? Jackson Brown?
No, it was
Eagles?
No, it was, who the hell was it? I'm efforting.
Okay, you effort, because then I'll ask Gordy. Gordy, are you there? Gordy, this
aye.
All right, this is the AML Nation to Gordy.
I'm here.
Okay, so at Christmas time, we had this great discussion about the digital magazine. And Steelers Wheel, okay.
That's what I thought it was. But
all
yes.
Right, good call. So anyways, we had this great discussion at Christmas about the digital magazine. And then as we were talking during our State of the Hobby, your little segment about the State of the Hobby, you started talking about how people are connecting in the hobby because of the new digital age that I continually beat on constantly, because I think this hobby is going to explode and we're all going to be covered with model railroad goo. And I thought, you know what? It would be great to talk to you about you are so devoted to this hobby, and you are so devoted to the NMRA. I'd like to talk to you about what you think the community of the NMRA is and is going to become. Does that make sense to you? Because
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a comment?
So I think what is the community of the NMRA right now is very much still focused on divisions and meeting in face to face, and very inequitable depending where you live in the world. If you're lucky enough to have lots of NMRA members around you, you get a better experience potentially than somebody who's, you know, in a 4,000 square mile area with only five NMRA members, for example. And I think what's going to happen, or I can already see it happening, and it's just going to grow, is connectivity between people. So I, at the start of the pandemic, started running this brew and natter, which was just not brew as in beer brew, Americans, but cup of tea, and a cup of tea and a scone or a bicky on a Saturday morning, when gentlemen would normally be sitting with the smoking jacket and the Saturday morning paper, deciding on the horse racing, bets. But we would get together on online and have a chat. And when that first started, it was just members of the British region, and it was good because we were able to check in on the folks that we knew were living alone, who'd lost their wives or just lived alone. And we were able to. It was possibly for most of them the only conversation they had all week. But what started to happen is the Aussies started to join us, and then the British region members in the United States. There are a few, actually quite a few. And there have been ever since the beginning of the British region, of course, which was founded in 1945 when there were a lot of Americans in Europe. And they've started to join us. So now we've ended up with this Saturday morning. You end up with this Saturday morning meeting that has absolutely no agenda. That's just 2 hours of chatting. Somebody may show what they're working on. You could go anywhere, and you've got folks in Georgia, folks in Canada, folks in Eastern Australia, the UK, Europe, all just joined in and having a chat, talking about model railroad. And it is like what used to happen at the back of the model shop when I was a kid. And I'm sure when you were a bit older than a kid, but you know, when you were younger, and there was more model shops, and you'd go in on a Saturday morning and sit in the back. Now I was doing that when I was 14. I'd get the train for 2 hours and sit in the back with these same gentlemen when I was 14, and we'd sit in the back of in the shop, in the little kitchen in the model shop up in Clitheroe in Lancashire, and we'd talk for hours about any topic. And I learned so much about so many different railroads from these folk. Yeah. You know, it's exactly the same thing. The difference now is, though, I've got Craig on there in Brisbane, and I've got Bill in Indiana.
It's got Bill in Indiana, I think.
In Indiana wants him. Can't go back there. Apparently.
Indiana wants me.
Morning.
All right, hang on.
Yeah, okay, hang on. You got to go back to Indiana.
Bill in Indiana.
All right, so I've got Bill in Indiana. So now it's not that they're just talking on a Saturday morning; they're talking all the time. And they're starting to build relationships. And then you get people in there who have connected their layouts to the internet. And now you've got people running layouts from anywhere, and it's just that I think that there's some things that I'm going to be doing. Now we've moved on from the digital magazine question, that is going to launch a whole new way that people look at the NMRA, a whole new way that people learn about the hobby, and that they can do it collectively, and that they can do it from anywhere. And that's the biggest difference in the NMRA. The future of the NMRA and the future of the hobby, but also really the future of what the NMRA gives, is that it's got to be accessible from anywhere and equitable to all. And that's the difference. That's what the future holds. The future holds this massive network of model railroaders that are very committed to scale model railroading, that want to improve themselves, improve their modeling, improve their enjoyment of the hobby together. That's really the strong future of the NMRA. And also, by having that bigger group of people, you can better meet the aims and objectives of the NMRA in 1935, which was to hold the manufacturing community to account, to ensure there's interoperability and those standards are there. And if the NMRA dies away because we continue to do what we've always done, we'll lose that out of the hobby. We won't lose the hobby, but we will lose that potentially, and we'll drift away from that. And most people don't want to see it. So I think that the change is, it's going to be that this network of of mentors and influencers and support that you've got in the hobby is going to suddenly blossom into it being a global thing. You've got Andy Ambrose sitting there in Essex, who's a very active member of the Silicon Valley Lines in California with an 8-hour time difference. But every Friday, he's there operating the layout remotely. When they have open houses, he's there supporting people joining in the open house from all over the world.
Yeah, how
It's
cool is that?
totally different. Because this had started before the pandemic.
Yes.
But what's happened is, because of the pandemic, people who hadn't flipped that switch and started joining the online community have, and then they've seen the benefits of it, and now they're telling their friends, and you've just got this ball rolling down the hill, and there's no way to stop it because it's getting bigger, and it's like a snowball. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it gets towards the end. So it's new people coming into the hobby today will have a different experience coming in than those that came into the hobby in the 1970s.
Yeah, and you make a good point there, Gordy, because I've heard from several NMRA members, various divisions, that they are seeing more activity in their divisions now, where they're going to online seminars, clinics, meetings, whatever, and they're regularly getting something every month, or if not more than that, and it certainly has helped that way. I heard a lot, and then you look at the group like the Operations Special Interest Group. They have a monthly or bi-monthly thing they do called Second Section, and they regularly get 100 of the people out to partake in that, where they've got a guy or two guys talking about various topics of operation and that type of thing. So the technology's there, and it's just growing and growing. And I think the NMRA has played some part in this, but by bringing it together, making it easier, it's a big snowball.
And I think what Gordy said there too is he's right. It had started before the pandemic, but the pandemic got a lot of people to flick that switch to go see if there was anything on the internet about the hobby, and it drew more people into that. I mean, I know of two examples that pop into my head right now. John Caffarelli and Cam Neely, who we got to get back on the podcast, Bruce. These are two young guys that found each other through Facebook. Both have great layouts. And then Josh Clark in Charlotte. I think he's in Charlotte or somewhere near Charlotte.
He's down in that neck of the woods, yeah.
And we were talking, and he had a guy that hooked up his rotary dumper, and he does all these great YouTube videos. But the fellow Will, who became one of his closest friends, he met him through Facebook or on the internet somehow. And these guys may never have met each other. And there's so many friendships being formed. And I can think of another one right off the top of my head, our own very own big Donnie Iris there in Sebastian, Florida.
Yeah.
He has now become fast friends with a fellow named Paul Cassar, whose interview has either played or is about to play. And those two guys, and Paul Cassar is in Australia, and he's in charge of the signal system in Queensland for the railroad. And these two guys have become fast friends, and they're basically about as far away from each other as they could possibly be physically.
Yeah, and those two guys have also set up a Shelf Layout Facebook page. So
that's right, they did.
They're bringing it all together. And I'm going to throw in another one, something that you're responsible for, Lionel.
What's that?
Well,
hang on. If I'm responsible for it, it's probably. Are we sure we want to talk about it on the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the Wednesday night AML chat, which it starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time and goes till I'm not sure what time, but quite often the early chat you'll have UK AMLers there and others join in, and there are going to be 20.
There'll be
30
at any time
on the chat going
at any time there's 20, 30 people, but I bet you 40, 50 people pass through there a day. Night.
Exactly. So there's another core group that like I said, the physical content in the room's changing, but over the course of the 6 or 7 hours, it's there's a bunch of people talking to each other. Like I popped on the other night and Peter Borch was there showing what he's doing on his layout and a few others. It's this is how you're doing it, and this is without the technology today, you wouldn't have this. Before you had to find out, go down to the club or find out where the division's meeting and drive to the division meeting for 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. But now it's all there. It's all there in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, was another one I was going to think of, a couple of guys that got together. It'll come to me in a minute. But you're right. Like, I mean, there's this is, okay, Gordy, there's a question I want to ask you. I tried asking Josh Clark this question. It was a tough question the first time he'd ever met me, and I think I was scaring him.
No.
Yeah. But, okay, you're 34, right?
Yep.
Okay, as a 34-year-old who has... So 20 years ago when you were 14, the internet and social media didn't exist. So I think you are like the perfect age. The internet existed. There was a lot of access to information, but social media hadn't even been born. So, I mean, as a young guy in the hobby, do you feel like, and I asked this of Josh, I said, do you feel like there's just like, holy smokes, there's people everywhere to be met? Like there's so many people to be met and so many adventures ahead of you. Does it feel like that?
Oh yeah, it's super exciting, and I'm fortunate because I've done a lot of traveling and I've been able to see a lot of things and I've accessed a lot of things. But every single day there's something new to look at. There's something new to discover, and even I'm sitting here as an MMR saying that, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Personally, as the president of the NMRA, I have the challenge that none of the stuff that we're talking about here it requires you to be an NMRA member. So we do have to up our game and be starting now to look at what is the next thing. We dropped the ball on the whole digital magazine thing. We should have done that 10 years ago when there was the internet. But 20 years ago, I think I looked at it the other day, and it was 20 years since I opened my Amazon account. So the internet was there 20 years ago.
But that's a great point. Let's hit that subject. That is what I think is the next great hill to climb for the NMRA, is all those things we've just talked about for the last 15 minutes. You can do without being a member of the NMRA. But I'm a firm believer in the NMRA. I mean, my personal, and I've told you this before, my personal thought is, there's a basic membership for $19.95. You get a membership card and access to the website, and that's all you get. But this is the umbrella we live under. So that's just my personal idea. And so, like, how do you? I know you. I mean, I know you're racking your brain trying to figure out this puzzle. So, what are some of the things you're thinking about to try to make the NMRA a viable option for people?
Well, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag just yet. Watch this space in July next year. But we may have a big Gordy 1 anniversary big announcement with smoke and everything because it'll probably blow up in my face. But I think what we need to do is return to basic principles. And the basic principles is the NMRA has always been good at introducing people to each other. 1. 2, the NMRA has always been very good at educating people. And if I can bring those two things together, I'm not going to say more than that because I will bring those two things together, it will cement the place of the NMRA within the hobby for a very long time if we get it right. There are other people that would do that on a commercial basis. I won't. Obviously, we're not for profit.
Right. I love that. That's an excellent point, Bruce. That the NMRA has been about introducing
stuff.
I think hang on a minute. We lost you, and then Bruce and I started having a conversation.
Sorry.
I thought you were done.
I thought he was done.
Okay. He said he made a good point. Now we're talking about it.
Yeah, apparently he wasn't.
Apparently we were wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, where did I get to? Sorry.
Introducing people.
Introducing people and educating people.
Yes.
And we're going to do something next year, 2022, hopefully, that will cement our place as that being our role for a very long time to come in the hobby.
And then I started to say to Bruce and to you, I think that's a great point, that's what the NMRA has been one of their strong suits, is introducing people to each other. And now, if you can do that electronically, if you can somehow implement that into the social media that we have now. I love that idea. In the Christmas show, we talked about an app, an NMRA app. I think that would be friggin' awesome.
Oh yeah, the app's just like first half. The other thing is second half, and I've got it. We're talking now, around Christmas, New Year time. Not to date the podcast, but that's when we're talking. And things move so fast here that podcasts can't keep up. but we there's a team. The team has been in place for this project since August. It's been paused because I needed to do this. I can only focus on one major project at a time. So we focused on the digital magazine. You saw how fast that got done. We'll be hitting the go button in the spring, in the winter, January, February. I'll be hitting the go button on project number 2. And it'll be there. It'll be done. And that'll be the difference. And that's the key thing. We see the hobby exploding. We don't see the NMRA exploding with it.
Yeah,
And
wow,
so-
that's another great point. Well, I am so
So,
freaking...
Gordy, do you have secret code names for your projects, like Project Windrow
Yeah.
or Project Wheel Stop, that kind of stuff?
You're giving me far too much credit. No. The honest answer is no. I have enough language difficulties as it is in a global organization without introducing things that can be mistranslated.
Project Wheel Stop. I love that. That's a kind of a cool idea. Gordy, I don't think it's really that bad of an idea if somehow you put on the NMRA website a link to this podcast, because I think this podcast, the free stuff, I think this podcast is another way for people to get introduced to the hobby. I think you guys should think about putting a link to this podcast on your website. I really do.
We're looking into this, so watch this space. There are. I got to be careful how I say this.
Yeah, okay.
But
You don't need to say it. Don't say it then.
There are other podcasts as well.
Yes.
And we're going to be looking at this. We do promote your podcast and others through our turntable.
That's a good idea. You're right. You very much do. You very much do. Yeah.
So we do. Any interesting interviews that you do?
Yes.
which we cherry pick. We don't necessarily do all the viewer mail ones, but we do that, and we will continue to support.
You're right. You do. You have been
the
doing.
hobby.
You have been doing that. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got excited there. But you're right. You have been doing that, and maybe what you just need is. You're right. You can't just single out this particular podcast because lots of the other podcast hosts are NMRA members too, so you can't exclude them. So maybe what you just simply need is a page on the website of podcasts and YouTube shows, and just list them all, and let people.
I'll suggest it to the IT team, or we just
hold a minute. Is that like a fresh idea?
It is a fresh idea, but we have been looking at it, and I'll suggest it to the IT team and see what we can do. I've fully committed my very small IT team to this digital magazine project. But yeah, it's something we'll look at, and certainly if we've got an NMRA app, we're going to look at trying to push the envelope of what we can do there. My vision's this, right? If I run the education organization. This is one of my visions. This might be plan 3, but I run the world's only model railroading education organization, right? I have a very, very dedicated team that do it. So why does every manufacturer in the world not have a QR code in their instructions in every single product that they print that links to educational content that we have on our website for beginners in the hobby to help people grow their interest in the hobby and buy more of their stuff? And those are the kind of questions that I'm running through my head. And how can I help manufacturers and help the hobby and help people getting into the hobby? That is our job. We are the only educational organization in the hobby. Certainly the biggest. There may be some small local things, but we are the biggest, and we should be there. That's the level at which we should be operating. So that's where I see the NMRA being. Whereas what we've done is taken ourselves away into a closet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're doing the exact opposite. Bruce, are you as excited as I am when we talk?
I am. I've been a life member since '83 of this organization, the NMRA, and I can honestly say I have seen more things happening in the last 6 months since Gordy and his people got into office than any number of years before that. It's a breath of fresh air that we've got these people in now who aren't afraid to go out and try something different rather than say, oh, no, we've never done that. It will never work, blah, 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 which is what we heard from the old people. We'll forget that. They're in the past. We're in the future now. We've got a great team in place now who are going ahead and making the NMRA a going concern again and providing a lot of great new things that I'm smacking my hands here. You can't see that though. But they're going ahead and they are providing stuff that members say, well, why can't we have that instead of the we can't. Of course, yeah, we could do that. Here you go.
It's very exciting. Well, it's like, Bruce, remember, oftentimes you and I would go to lunch. Many times we go to Deb's for lunch. And I can remember many years ago, you and I sitting at the table going, what the hobby needs is a podcast, and then both of us shaking our heads, going, nah, that'll never work.
That'll never work. What are you thinking about?
Exactly. Yeah. So you are friggin' awesome, Gordy. You just are friggin' awesome. I am just. I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. I'm not going to stop yelling at you, but I am
Gordy. He's our man. If he can't do it, no one can.
There you go.
Well, it's not just.
But it's not just you. I know. And you made a very good point in your editorial. Yes, it's the team.
Let's make a point.
Thank your team for all of this.
Yes, let's make a point of talking about. You were talking about your IT guys. Who are your IT guys?
So at the moment, the IT department's headed up by Speed. We've still got Scott and Ben, but we're onboarding 7 new volunteers. In fact, no, that might be 8 now.
Do Speed and Scott and Ben have last names, or is that all they are?
So it's Ben Severe, Scott Povlot, and Speed Gert Mueller from the Lone Star region. But we've got other folk that we're bringing on. We're bringing 8 new people on. I apologize, I don't know all of their names off the top of my head. But we're bringing 8 new people on board into the IT team. That means us spending money on their training and education so that they can fully support us as quickly as possible, and that's something that we're looking to do. We're looking to put them on some courses for their own benefit and for ours in 2022. That's something we've not done before. We kind of expected these people to have loads of skills at the cutting edge and just donate all of that for free, and that's not it just doesn't work like that, guys. So not if you want to get stuff done. So yeah, the IT team's fantastic. They're doing a lot of work. Same with the publications under Riley. Riley Chiggs, he's bringing on new people all the time. Christina in marketing is bringing on new people all the time.
Is that her name? Is that her name? Christina in marketing?
Everyone knows Christina. It's Christina Zambri.
Okay.
Our marketing consultant. She's bringing on new team members all the time. She's also out there looking at new technologies. It was Christina that helped us bring in SurveyMonkey. She's also leveraging new features of Constant Contact, so we can do if you've not opened the email, here it is again. So it keeps being at the top of your mailbox. And there's a whole host of other folk. There's still not enough people at national level. That's not a problem that's gone away. And in my editorials and e-bulletins and stuff, I'll be writing in 2022 to target particular departments that need support. We'll be asking for people to step up and support, but know that you will be welcomed into the national team and you'll be supported with training and stuff as long as you're willing to give us the time and your expertise. I'm exceptionally grateful for everything that people do for the NMRA, because it wouldn't exist without the thousands and thousands of volunteer hours that go into it.
Exactly. So a lot of people that listen to this podcast aren't NMRA members. So who would they contact? How would they contact them? So
if you don't know who to contact, then contact me. And I will signpost. Or contact our headquarters team. But I'm happy to signpost people. I know a lot of people have been joining the NMRA since I became president. I'm very grateful that you're seeing the changes and you're recognizing that this is now an organization you want to be a part of and you want to represent, because all of our members represent us.
Well, and that's something. Oh, is he gone again, Bruce?
Yes, but he made a good point, and this is one thing that
If all
has
the
been.
department head.
Oh, there he is. He's back now.
Now he's just
Now he's back.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Go back to represent us.
So all of our members. So if it's extremely grateful for the people that have joined the organisation in the last year, that want to associate themselves with our organisation and also want to represent us. Because all of our members do represent the NMRA in everything that they do, say, and how they act. So always just remember that. But if you don't know who to contact, all the department heads' email addresses are on the website. But if you don't know who to contact, you can come and drop me an email at president@nmra.org, and I will signpost you to the right person. People do it all the time, so it's nothing new.
What is signpost?
I'll say, with your skill set, we really need you here. What do you think? I think that's a great idea. Let me introduce you to.
Okay, and if they are on the fence and are not members, but they're on their fence, are they still able to contact you at NMRA president, or what is it again?
Anybody can contact me at president@nmra.org.
President@nmra.org. Are you? You seem to have an accent. Are you not in North America?
No. Unfortunately, British rule has returned to North America. But yeah, people can email me, and look, there's plenty of scammers that manage to email me every day. So I'd appreciate if one or two of those the emails I get every day could be from willing volunteers. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and
not somebody wanted to offer you 10,000 pieces of gold in exchange for something.
Yeah.
You know what's happened to me, Bruce?
What's that?
There's been a package arrive at the Canadian Customs that's illegal, and there's been an arrest warrant put out for me, and
really
because of this illegal package, and all I have to.
Oh man!
Yeah, so then you press, and then what you do is you press 1 to speak with a representative now, but they are. Whenever I say hi, you got an illegal package there, and I've got an arrest warrant, they always hang up.
Huh.
Oh. Well, that's a shame, because if you don't go and pick up that haggis soon, it'll start to stink.
Yeah.
That will become a biological weapon, and then you'll be in big trouble.
Hey, Bruce, would you say, some people would say, I can be rough around the edges, or I'm kind of cantankerous, or whatever. I think I would describe me as a hard ass, basically. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did I say that too quickly? Yes.
Yeah.
I've known you since about 1990, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right, there you go. But what I want to say for people out there is Gordy is truly grateful for all the people that have joined since he's become president. He really does. This is one legitimate guy that actually cares about what's happening, and everybody. Gordy is not feeding us a line. He's the real deal, so.
Exactly. And Gordy, thank you again.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. This is going to be. I feel the wind blowing in my hair. There's so much change happening at that, and I bet you, and everybody's excited. That I've talked to some of the volunteers, and they're all excited to be part of it, and they're all having fun working on it. I think an app would be cool. An NMRA app would be really cool.
Exactly.
That's nothing though. That's easy.
Is it?
That's the easy stuff. Yeah, that's all easy stuff. That's easy stuff. That's not even difficult stuff. We've got to get beyond this. This is stuff we should have done 10 years ago. So You're just gonna have to try to keep up.
All right.
I hope we'll be having an extremely different conversation in this time next year. And we won't be talking about apps and digital magazines, because it'll just be there. We'll be talking about something else. And if we pull off the something else, yeah, then you'll be right to be surprised.
So if we don't talk to you before your anniversary date,
we'll talk.
That will be certainly a day to remember.
Yeah, that's for sure. And there's nobody listening, Gordy. You can tell us.
No.
Is there anybody? Do you think there's anybody listening, Bruce?
Well, 1 or 2 maybe.
Right.
I have enough people that email me about being beaten up by Lionel to know that people listen.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Let's get down to brass tacks. We've covered this subject before. That was fun that very first time we interviewed you, because you know what, I was like, and I still believe that the NMRA, like, I'm very disappointed that they sold the Chattanooga thing. That was cool. And I still personally believe that the NMRA should try to work towards having an office that is some sort of a destination. I mean, it's the NMRA, for crying out loud. It shouldn't just be some pokey little office somewhere. It should be, a proper office where people feel like they can drop in and pick up, if they're like Nick Santo is a perfect example. Nick, I know you're listening to this. Nick Santo is a perfect example. He's an avid model railroader. He's been in all his life. He's done everything in railroading. And he likes, in the wintertime, him and his wife travel in their RV. And he would love to stop in at the NMRA head office and just see what there is to see. And there doesn't have to be much to see, but he would like to see. I don't like this whole clandestine thing of where is the head office and why is it so secretive. I think that's part of the culture that was developed over the last 20 years, and I think that's something I would like to see you try to change.
Well, Nick, if you're listening, if your RV can float, you're more than welcome to visit the NMRA White House in Orkney.
That's right. Well, I'm coming. I can tell you that. That is like way up on my list.
But yeah, I mean, these are all, the problem is, like, there was some decisions been made in the past. They were the right decisions at the time. I'm sure. I wasn't there. It wasn't me. It wasn't you. It wasn't us that made the decision. We didn't necessarily have all the facts or the evidence to make that decision making. We're not asking the people right now who made that decision to justify their decision or what their justifications were for making that decision at that time. It's not really fair for me to comment one way or the other. Just to say that those decisions have been made. Let's all work towards the future. Let's look at how. Let's try our best to see where do we in 10 years' time, what are we going to need from our hobby, from the organization? What is the hobby going to look like? Let's try to think about that. Let's try to look at what those green shoots of change are. Let's try to see them, and then let's try to use them for the betterment of everybody's experience. That's the best thing that we can do. There's no point mulling over whether bricks and mortar were built or were not built, or were sold or were not sold, because an earthquake, a tornado, a fire, anything can take all that away anytime.
Yep. No, that's a very good point. So I will change you're right, let's forget about the past. So my new mantra will be, there's a fair amount of coin in the bank, so let's use it for something constructive rather than just sit on it. And
good. Well, we're on the same page.
Good. Now we're getting somewhere. And finally, the last time we talked at the Christmas special, I brought up the point, and you tried to pass this off on your father, which I was actually kind of disappointed on, because I thought more of you than that. But in 1986, the NMRA National was in Boston, Massachusetts, and the train show was held in a car park, in a like a covered car park. And there were only 700 attendees because there was no advertising. And I think the vendors and the manufacturers who attended that show and put in their blood, sweat, and tears to make it a good show. I want to know what you, as the president of the NMRA now, what are you going to do for these people to try to correct this situation?
Okay, so let's recap this for the benefit of everyone. I was born in 1987. I was conceived about the same time as this show, and so yeah, I do hold my father responsible for the thanks bit of this. I'm not sure how many of those manufacturers are still alive, Lionel, the individuals that were there. I'm sure that they had a good time in Boston in 1986. Unfortunately, the Bruins weren't playing, so they couldn't go and watch the Leafs lose. But I'm pretty sure that subsequent shows have made up for it. But we're always looking to improve, and we've put some good measures in place around improving national train shows going forward. So just like, all those people that died for medical science in the past with, arsenic paints and things like that, that was an opportunity for us to learn, and it was an opportunity to impress that passed the NMRA by very well in 1986. But yeah, we've moved on from that. Everybody else has moved on from 1986.
All right. How about this? Between now and the next time we talk, and I plan on having you on a lot because there's lots to talk about all the time, I want you to consider this idea that we can bring up next time. What about if you sent all of those manufacturers and vendors? What if you sent them a lobster?
A lobster.
Yeah, like it was in Boston, and Boston's a fishing community, and it's there's famous for lobsters and shrimp and shit.
What we should do is we should get that famous Bostonian Texan, the Eastern District Director John Doring, onto the podcast, and we should ask John, as a resident of Boston, what he is going to do about it. Because what I want to know is
John.
Well, exactly. Because what I want to know though is if we the NMRA still have to apologise for that, what's the management of the Toronto Maple Leafs doing? Because they've still not won the Stanley Cup since that, and in fact it was a lot earlier than that. So I think if I want to see what they do, and then if I do 10% of that.
Well, I think they're pretty good at showing their displeasure. They'll throw their jerseys on the ice. I'll take you to a Leaf game one day, and you can see when they're losing.
Then I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, when they're losing, it ain't a pretty sight. So, well, can I? How about this then? Can we at least leave it as a temporary? We can table it, but the next time I see you, I can boo.
Yeah, sure.
I like that.
Like Waldorf and Statler on the Muppet Show.
Yeah, no. Yeah. What about the '86? That lobster idea that could get some traction.
Should be chowder.
Chowder. Yeah,
chowder.
Yeah.
My worry is what happens if it gets as an illegal package stuck in customs? It'll smell worse than the haggis.
Well, yeah, that'd be. Yeah, then you could say, "Well, aren't you glad that the show's over?" All right, that's it. We've had another fun time with Gordy, and we're going to have you. That's what we'll do next time. Next time, we're going to get you and John Doring. And how's that whole Martin Jenkins thing going? That concerns me.
Well, it should concern you. Martin's okay. Martin's doing really well. Of course, we've got to remember that Martin's at-large worldwide director. His term was he was just seeing out the end of my term, so his term is up in July, unless he's re-elected. So
we got to get him re-elected.
We've got to get him on. Well, yeah. Well, I can't really say yes or no to that.
No, you can't.
You need to get him back on.
That's right. Okay, so
we'll diligent about getting him in.
We'll get John Doring and Martin Jenkins, and we'll get Gordy on here, Bruce, in a couple of months.
Yep.
And we'll work on getting Marty reelected as
get the AML team in there, get Marty back.
I'd really like you to talk to.
Who?
Why don't you talk to Riley?
Sure, let's talk to Riley. Who's Riley?
Riley is the head of publications. He's implementing a digital magazine.
Well, why don't we talk to Riley?
Why don't we talk to Riley and you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we should.
All right. You send Riley an email, and then see if he's up for it. And if he is, we'll check his audio and see if it keeps cutting out on him, like somebody else's.
It's the internet. I'm really sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
We had a big power cut this evening.
Actually, we had your wins over here, but it's fine. Now I'm giving you the gears. I'm always going to yell at you. You know what? No matter what you do for the rest of your life, just think of me as that you love your dad. You have a great relationship with your dad, but just think of it when your dad's not around. I'll yell at you.
It's okay. I appreciate that, and I understand waiting as long as you have for a Stanley Cup win. I understand why you're angry.
It's been only since '67.
Yeah, it's only been 54.
It was back in black and white TV when I saw it.
Yeah, it's only been 54 years. What's going on? Boy, he's
Boy, I'll tell you.
All right. That's it.
You know the gears of AML can change in good direction already.
Yeah, that's true. All right, that's the end of this segment. Gordy, do you know what to say at the end of a segment?
Subway chime, go.
Yeah, only with enthusiasm.
Oh. Subway chime, go!
Okay, so what did you think of that?
That was good. And the Gordy, great as always. Considering he takes a bit of a working over. As some would say, you're being mean to him, but I think Gordy realizes it's all part of the show. But he's doing a great job. There's absolutely no doubt about it. He's doing a great job. And then the conversations with Lorne there. Lorne's another great guy whose heart is in the hobby and wanting to do as much as he can for people. So.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah. No, what?
My two favorite guys to yell at on the podcast are Gordy Robinson and Lorne James.
There you go.
Gordy just because he's Gordy, and I love Gordy bunches, and it's just
I just thought of the perfect cover photo for this one.
What's that?
There's that picture from I think it's Uncle Buck where John Candy's yelling at the kids sitting on the couch. You need somebody to Photoshop Gordy's and James's head on that picture.
Yeah, there you go.
and your head on John Candy.
Or we just leave it with Uncle Buck, yeah.
Or just leave it with Uncle Buck yelling at him, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I love Gordy to pieces. I can't get over the spectacular job he's doing. Like you said there in the intro, they're up 500 or 600 members.
Yeah.
They haven't been up in membership for 10 or 15 years.
And you look at some of the comments on the Modeler's Life Facebook group. How many people say, "Yeah, I rejoined because of Gordy"?
Yes, a lot of people. It's
a lot of people.
I
I rejoined or decided to join because Gordy's got it. Looks like he knows what he's got going on.
His enthusiasm is infectious.
It indeed is.
And you can't. And when you feel it, you feel like, yeah, I want to be part of that organization. I hope the NMRA at some point realizes what what they've got in their hot little hands there. Because he's just Gordy. I am so proud of Gordy. I am so proud of Gordy and the job he's done. However, that does not prevent me from yelling at him just because.
Exactly.
And along those same lines, I'm very proud of Lorne James and the job he's done with Otter Valley Railway.
Mm-hmm.
Until, of course, I ran into this snafu when I was trying to buy this gift certificate for a friend of mine.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So now I've yelled at Lorne a few times, and this will give me another opportunity. We'll get Lorne on the podcast, and this will give me another. He will have all the acronyms and buzzwords and phrases that you can. He'll be throwing everything he's got at me with his buzzwords and his cliches and all that stuff. And I'm going to stand my ground and say, all I wanted to do was buy a gift certificate, and somehow I ended up on the PayPal account. And I had to fill in another credit card. And Lorne, it was just too hard. I bet you,
right.
I can see me intermixing those two names.
Yeah. Gordy James and...
Yeah. Well, you know what happened the other day is Lorne sends me a message. Let's see if I can find it. Lorne sends me a message. I'm very excited for him. Because, let's see, it was Lorne. He sent me on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. He sent me a message that him and his friend have started a new freight car company. Let's see, where is this? Don't tell me. Let me get. Okay. He says, so he says, here it is. I got to go back. Yes, we're launching our private label this week. Modern Mainline Freights is a division of Otter Valley Railway, featuring private label freight cars and vehicles. Well, how cool! And I immediately write, very cool. Does Modern Mainline Freights have a website? And he goes, no, not yet. So I put, well, when you get a website, we'll talk about it on the podcast. Because, and you know where we got that from, which I feel like this could be the third guy that gets put into that particular group was Steve Tuff.
And Steve Tuff has a website now.
Yeah.
Got a website. Yeah.
Yeah. So we interviewed Steve.
I think I like to think it was encouragement from you that it's either encouragement or go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'll just do it. Leave me alone.
Oh yeah. Was it encouragement or was it a verbal beratement?
Yeah.
Beating.
Yeah. Depends on you look at it.
Yeah.
Some would say beating, berating. Others would say encouragement.
Yeah. So that's
just all right, fine. I quit. I give in.
Yeah. So that's an interview that's coming up with a fella named Steve Tuff, who nobody's ever heard of yet on the podcast. And he's a young guy. Him and his partner Dan have started a 3D printing company, and they got a ton of great stuff.
They do indeed.
And the only way you could see it while we were talking to him was on their Facebook page. And he's telling me about all these great products, and I'm like, well, where are they? Well, they're on our Facebook page. So you had to scroll through their Facebook. I said, why don't you have a website? Well, we haven't done that yet. I said, well, you can't have all these great products and not have a website. So it was only a few days after that their website showed up.
Indeed.
It sounds like, what's the dog's name?
Well, we got the little yappy one named Aries, and the big yappy one named Ollie.
Oh, okay. Well, it
something walked by, and
it sounds like somebody let them into the studio.
Yeah, got to get that door fixed.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So we yelled at Steve Toffen quickly. Yeltsin Models. What is it? Yeltsin.com?
I believe that's it.
Or is it YeltsinModels.com?
Yelton.
How do you spell it?
It's Notley spelled backwards.
Oh, it's not. That's right. It is.
Notley spelled backwards. Yes.
YELTON.
Yes.
I'm gonna. Somebody type that in while we're talking. Yelton Models. See if it's Yelton Models or just Yelton.com. You're typing now. I can tell. He's typing. Yeah. He's typing. There's he can't talk while he's typing.
It is Yelton's models.wixsite.com.
Oh. Well, they're getting there.
They're getting there. They got pictures. They got, some of the stuff they're doing and the prices they're charging. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, man, there's a ton of people starting these 3D model companies, but every one of them seems to be different than the last one.
Yep.
Are you going to do that?
I have enough to struggle trying to draw a piece of 2x4 in CAD yet. So.
That always surprises. Have you taken your 3D printer out of the box yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. Are you looking forward to that?
I am.
All right. Can you give out our email address?
Our email address is send us an email. Let us know what you thought about the Gordy and James show. Our email address is modellerslife@gmail.com. Modelers with one L @gmail.com.
And this is on our free channel. And if you go to modellerslife.com, that's modellerslife.com, and you click, that's our website. You click on there, and it tells you what shows we've had, what shows are coming up. It's just full of information. There's some stuff about Dave Abley's Onondaga Cutoff. There's some stuff about Tom Jacobs' Reading Cross Line. Eventually, there'll be some stuff about the average Don's layout. There's tons of stuff on that website, so go there. And also, if you love this podcast and you want twice as much every week, all you got to do is there's also a Patreon page right there. Boom, a spot, and you can just click on that Patreon, and for just 365 easy payments of 16 cents a day, you can have twice as much podcasting a week.
There you go.
And also,
who wouldn't want twice as much of this?
Exactly. And you get to hear me yell. You'll probably get to hear me yelling more at Gordy and Lorne. And also, on that page, if you didn't catch our email address, there's a picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state. If you click on that picture, boom, you don't even need the email address. All you got to do is fill in the title and your info, and you're ready to go.
Exactly.
I think we got her covered, buddy.
We got her going. Way to go. Well done.
Oh, yeah. And if you want a hot dog shirt, if you want a T-shirt with a hot
dog shirt, you'd say.
Yeah, if you want a T-shirt with a hot dog on it, just go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com. Scroll across the navigation bar to the right to where it says AML. Click on that, and boom, you are in a wonderland of merchandise. Hats, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, whatever you could possibly need.
There you go. A few hot dog T-shirts might be swell door prizes or raffle prizes for Comstock.
Who doesn't want
and then you can add your own condiment stains right there.
Exactly. And who doesn't want a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
Exactly. I know nobody who would not want a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
Exactly. Are you ready?
Well, the lovely Jean's giving the look like she might not want one. But...
Oh, she's in the studio now, too.
She's over sitting on the far end of the couch, yes. She avoided the spot, so she's right. Good.
Has any yellow stripes on the truck yet?
No.
I had a boy. I bet you this one's bigger than the last one.
It's about the same size.
Okay, but now it's got the aluminum body.
It does.
It'd be a little harder to get the dent, pull that dent out.
Yeah, it might be.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
perplexed gift certificate buyers at Otter Valley Railroad.
Traveler's Life is sponsored by Because I Love Sushi. You could love any old sushi, but would it love you back?
It's another Lincoln Homer.